guys, how you doing? Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. We are back with another Neurodiversity Stories with your host. My name is Darren Clark, and we have had, as I've said, every single week, and they haven't failed us in any way, shape, or form. We have had an incredible amount of guests that have joined us to share their take on neurodiversity, and they're sharing their stories as well. And today, without fail, we have another incredible guest, a lady called Kim Tu, who is going to be sharing her incredible journey with neurodiversity. And I'm so thrilled to share that with you guys. So, as I said, so why are we here and why do we do this? So my name is Darren Clark and I'm a neurodiversity marketing consultant. I work with organizations globally to spread more awareness around neurodiversity in their workplaces and also in the educational sector as well. So that's why we put together these neurodiversity stories. We do them every single Friday at 11 o'clock and we stream them live across the social media platforms. We then put them onto YouTube and then we create a podcast as well. Guys, please let us know where you're tuning in from as well, because we do get an incredible array of people from all across the globe, from Argentina, from Kenya, from America, Australia. So if you could just let us know where you are in the comments, and that would be fantastic. And I also want to say a massive thank you to our sponsors. We have had Data Ops, we've had Scanning Pens, and now we have Claro software. And I just want you guys to check this out. So guys, Claro Software, they are our sponsors. Massive thank you to the organization Claro Software. If you're not familiar with Claro Software, then please do check them out in all the comments underneath. So Claro Software develops assistive technology software for people with disabilities such as print and reading difficulties like dyslexia to help to achieve all that they can. They're an incredible company, and thank you so much again for helping sponsor these shows. So guys, I want to bring on my incredible guest, Kim, who's going to be sharing her story around neurodiversity. And I'd like you all to welcome Kim. Good morning, Kim. How are you today?
I'm so good. Thanks for having me on. I'm so excited.
Kim, I know how incredibly busy you are, and to have you on here is a real special treat for us and our viewers. So thank you so much. You're doing incredible work in the neurodiversity sector. You've set up a business, the Genius Potential, which I really do want to kind of go into kind of detail around that, but also as well to get kind of an insight into your journey. I mean, when we spoke previously, you mentioned you want to speak about your journey as a British Southeastern Asian woman being diagnosed with dyslexia ADHD in late to 20s. There is so much that I want to talk to you around that and everything else. So Kim, if you wouldn't mind, if you could just introduce yourself and tell us and the viewers a little bit about yourself, that would be amazing.
Sure. So thank you so much for having me on. I'm so excited because it's rare to see, someone of, my color, my race being on and talking about these issues. So that's why I'm here. So where do I start? So I was born in London, but my family originally are from Vietnam, and they were Vietnamese refugees. So they came to the country around, I guess, like 1980s around. So I grew up with this incredible knowledge to know that my parents came from such a background, right? And I'll get to that, but so just take a step back. But yeah, so I'm was born in London, born and raised in London. I am turning 27 soon. I got diagnosed with dyslexia at 20 and ADHD 6 months ago. So that's the backdrop. But just to talk about my background growing up in that very pressurized environment of my parents saying, we came here, we've experienced so much, we want you to do really well, and that obviously creates a lot of pressure. And I think a lot of Asian people out there, or from of color background, can really relate to that pressure when your parents are immigrants. And that's really tough for someone who's got a hidden disability, because why you compensate. I remember growing up and just studying so much. Like I loved learning, that helped, but I remember spending a lot of my free time just studying and studying. And I wouldn't remember stuff quickly, but I would think, surely if you work hard, you'd get the results. Yeah, you're nodding, so I presume you can relate to this.
Absolutely. Now, absolutely. I'm interested in the sense when you mentioned that you were, what age were you diagnosed with dyslexia, Kim?
Yeah, I was diagnosed at 20, so at university. So that was a shock. Yeah.
Yeah, I was going to say to have that diagnosis. I mean, I've heard a couple of stories where people said that they got to university and that I don't know if it was a certain exams or tests that they were taking, then suddenly someone kind of took upon themselves to say, well, actually, you may be dyslexic. That's I mean, to get to that stage of your educational journey, being undiagnosed, what was it like when you were diagnosed?
Oh, my story is a lot more traumatic to my diagnosis than that, by the way.
No. Absolutely.
No, I'm just laughing because it was such like a traumatic moment. Well, I can definitely go into it, but essentially, because I worked so hard, I was always the girl getting A's and stuff. People always thought, I was smart, and that's fine. But I'm not saying when I got diagnosed, I was like, I'm not smart. But my point
No.
is that when I went to university, the reading just got so intense. And I remember falling behind with the reading and thinking, maybe I'm not meant to be here. So I studied at London School of Economics. And first I was like, how the hell did I get into here? And second, I was like, am I good enough to be here? Because everyone can read the reading, understand it, do the essays, and look at me falling behind. And I camped out at university for three nights because I was like, I've got to get this reading, I've got to get this A. So I really overcompensated and it burnt me out. And so I did an essay and I plagiarized it badly by accident, of course. And my teacher pulled me and said, this is a serious offense. Why have you done this? And I said, I didn't mean to do it. It was an accident. And she was like, surely, this is plagiarism, this isn't right. And I had to really reflect and think, maybe something is going on here because I'm trying really hard, and trying hard is not getting the results that I want right now. So something must be, going on. And that's when I found out that loads of friends of mine were getting tested for dyslexia. And I was like, maybe I should try it. I don't know what dyslexia is, but I'm going to try it. And then once I got diagnosed, I was like, this now makes sense. I don't know how to feel about it, but I remember the first comment one of my friends said to me was, "You're too smart to be dyslexic. Are you sure you're dyslexic?" And I remember thinking, oh boy, here we go. Let's start a new journey together. So yeah.
It is. I guess it is comments like that. When the lack of understanding. I guess when someone says, "Well, that person doesn't look disabled," or "That person doesn't look dyslexic," or "That person doesn't look like you have ADHD," almost like it's a compliment. Okay, I look intelligent to have dyslexia. And I guess, and it's hard enough to get in, the struggles that you've gone through, as well as, and then, the diagnosis, and then the support around you. You almost feel like you have to kind of educate yourself around it, and then obviously educate others, just to make everyone feel okay. Was that the case for yourself, Kim?
Yeah, for sure. Well, like when that happened, I actually fell silent because I was like, oh, there's surely a lot of ignorance. Maybe I shouldn't talk about this. Which is why once I got my ADHD diagnosis, which is another story, pandemic kind of driven story, I wanted to write about it. And so I thought, I'm going to start Genius Potential because this is a millennial take on neurodiversity. I definitely think millennials, definitely Gen Z, are more aware of neurodiversity. And I was just like, I'm so done with keeping quiet about this. I'm just going to talk and I'm going to share my experiences. And and it's one of the best decisions I've made. And I would encourage anybody on the call, on this podcast, to do the same, to just speak about your experiences. And that's the only way we can educate ourselves and others, if we speak about our experiences.
And you do an incredible job. I mean, I follow you on Instagram, and you're
Oh,
always kind of you're always putting incredible content out. And you're all you're putting stories out, which is captivating to then take you into the post. And so you're incredibly good. What's the kind of the community that you've built around that? What's the kind of feedback that you've got? I mean, I see that some of the feedback that you get is incredibly positive and obviously inquisitive. But how do you feel that community that you build it?
Oh, it's amazing. I just couldn't believe how much, I guess, people connected with it. And it's so stupid to think that people wouldn't. Why wouldn't they? It's something that's invisible. And for once, someone's being visible about it. Why shouldn't they connect with it? But yeah, the community I built is amazing. Like, I'm so interactive with, all the questions I get, and the reactions on my posts, etc. And I've organically started building my ADHD female community as well.
Wonderful.
So I have, I have around 30 women on my WhatsApp group. It's small, but it's growing organically, and the support on there is beyond anything that I can get from counselling. I would tell you that.
That's incredible, and I say this all the time. We do we've created several different companies and groups and things, and I'm a big advocate of saying, people think that we need tens of thousands of people to interact, but it can get to that stage, but it's those small, unique kind of groups, so to speak, that's so powerful. And I guess, Kim, you must get messages of support, in the sense of people saying, well, actually, thank you so much for saying this, and it really does kind of touch your heart, doesn't it? And in the sense of the reason why you've kind of done what you've done.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially, I was contacted by by someone who was in Taiwan, who said, oh my God, you're like literally the second person I spoke to who is Asian and dyslexic and has ADHD. Like, I could not meet anybody like that, and that's when I realized that, oh my gosh, like in Asia, there's not enough discussion about this. And anywhere else really, but I think Europe's doing a good job, maybe the US and UK, but we need to talk about this more.
I've got a really an incredible friend who lives in India. He's safe at the moment with the pandemic and everything, and it wasn't until he enlightened me in India how dyslexia is perceived over there, and the the sheer pressure of people thinking that their sons and daughters they obviously want the best for them, but the pressure over there it was really scary, because he shared kind of and we won't go the suicide rate over in India was absolutely off the scale, purely because and it was backdated to the fact of a lot of neurodiverse diagnosis, and it was that fear of the shame element of not being able to achieve what they needed to achieve. And
absolutely,
it's quite scary, isn't it?
It is incredibly scary and incredibly unfortunate. Like, when I told my parents, I had to Google translate it, because there's not even a word in Vietnamese. I don't even know what the word is, because it's so to explain it to them, I had to Google translate it. And the first thing my parents said was, we don't understand why this is happening, you're so smart. And they also said, maybe you study so much you drove yourself crazy. And
bless you.
For your parents to say that to you, like, I had to just laugh it off. Like, I didn't cry about it, because for me, I just thought ignorance is not an attack. Ignorance is something that obviously we as advocates need to do more of, right? And that's fine. So I would encourage, everyone who have those comments, especially with people who love you, like your parents, I guess it's hard, but don't take it to heart too much, because see the ignorance as an opportunity for more education and a chance to love yourself more. Because when my parents said that, it made me laugh so much. And I thought, no, studying so much didn't drive me crazy. Studying so much just made me realize that it didn't help me get to where I am. I just need to work smarter and not work harder, right? So for me, it was definitely an enlightened moment where I was like, okay, well, I'm not going to follow this doctrine anymore. So
it's incredibly I mean, you have to be, if you take a normal kind of a normal diagnosis, I guess, and the process that they kind of go through and the support network that they need. I mean, you must have been battling from all kind of sides, really. And then thinking, you know, were you kind of last to kind of self-care yourself in that element? Because you're always thinking, okay, so how do I explain it to them? What are they going to think? And it's just, it must just be mentally exhausting as well as trying to take care of yourself.
Yeah, for sure. Like definitely mentally exhausting because, firstly, you don't want them to worry. So you don't really tell them anything. And so your support network is very small because really, how can friends help you if you don't really understand it?
Yeah.
So my friends knew, but no one really could help me. So for me, I was like, I don't know how to help myself. And, since nobody knows how to help me, maybe I should just keep quiet about it. So, I left university, went into work, did tell my employers about it, but kind of just try to get on with it without any help. And that was really damaging. It was really damaging to my mental health. I wouldn't recommend it for anybody to hide.
And I agree. I mean, I went through, I was 37 when I found out I had dyslexia and ADHD. So there was kind of a lot of hidden, it was hidden to me, basically. But, even going back to, the kind of the corporate, the workplace element and speaking to individuals, the companies that we work with, that there's still this element of, if I do announce that I'm dyslexic or ADHD, dyscalculate, with neurodiverse, it will hamper maybe a promotion. It maybe hamper a reputation or all this thought, and that's so exhausting, isn't it?
My goodness, it is so exhausting. Yeah, I mean, it's not out of malicious intent. I do think it's just out of absolute ignorance and unawareness, really, of how neurodiverse people think, the value we can bring to workplaces. I know there's a lot of noise about it now, but definitely from my experience, there isn't enough. Like, we need neurodiverse training. We need managers to understand what neurodiversity is. We need people to pick up on these things, right? Because now I can explain, like, during the pandemic, when I was working at home, all my coping mechanisms kind of went out the window, and I was just procrastinating. I couldn't understand why I was procrastinating. And like, obviously the first thing people would think is, oh, you're lazy, or you're not doing your job, or whatever. But actually it was ADHD, and I only kind of realized that once I researched it. So it just shows me that managers and workplace training, neurodiverse training, there needs to be, it's similar with the importance of racial bias training. We need neurodiverse training, and we need it now.
I couldn't agree with you more. And I guess it is that, I mean, I always remember kind of the diagnosis element of almost once you're diagnosed, it's then a case of, there are, incredible companies out there that do a lot of kind of aftercare and the support element, but it's almost like you've got your diagnosis and then you're off. And then it's your job then to start educating people as well as trying to learn.
I know.
Yourself.
Yeah, I'm just laughing because it was exactly that. Like, when I mean, dyslexia didn't hit me as hard because I think I was kind of like, oh yeah, it's quite common. It's quite common also that you hear dyslexia, but ADHD is also very, you don't really hear that a lot. So when I got my diagnosis, I was in shock. I was like, oh my God, like, where do I go to get help? And I think that's the first thing I did was hit the Facebook pages and hit the Facebook groups. And it just shows how much, like, community and community education and community awareness and community love can really help lift you up from,
Absolutely.
this piece of paper that's saying you're different. Yeah,
definitely. And there's so many people on the similar paths and similar journeys, but it's so many different times. And that's what I love. I love that, what you've done within your community is that you've built that support network of people, depending on where they are in the journey. You've got, you can kind of help and sharing your journey as well. Is incredibly powerful. And like you said, not many people are sharing sharing their journey truly, because they just don't feel comfortable with doing it. But when they hear your story, they can relate to that element, and it must be really powerful for you.
Yeah, it feels, I love listening to when people open up to me, and that's what my friends always said you're an oversharer. It's probably an ADHD thing, but I always say it's absolutely fine to be an oversharer as long as the other person feels comfortable to share stuff with you, and that's how like a genuine bond is created. So I'm absolutely fine with oversharing, and I would encourage people, if you feel comfortable, definitely share, because what's the worst that could happen? Not much. Like a lot of the times when you share your stories, everyone's like, it's an amazing story. Everyone has an amazing story, and I love hearing about it. Yeah, for sure. I would encourage people to share their stories.
So with the dyslexia element of it, so I'm diagnosed, if you use diagnosis as a terminology, so diagnosed in dyslexia and then ADHD. So your ADHD was diagnosed, did you say 7 years later or 6?
Yeah, so 6 months ago.
Yeah. So, but between the dyslexia diagnosis and the ADHD, there was a gap, wasn't there?
Yeah, 7-year gap.
7 year. So how did that kind of come about, the ADHD, in the sense of going to get that diagnosis? I mean,
Yeah.
how did that go, Kim? If you wouldn't mind sharing.
Yeah. Firstly, I didn't know why it was missed, the ADHD part, when I got my dyslexia. But I think it's because universities don't diagnose for ADHD. And unless you go seeking for it, like no one's really going to tell you should go get an ADHD diagnosis. So it really, you know what? I just thought I was the weirdest person on earth. I would go to these companies, it was great companies, and I would be really excited, and I would get really bored. I remember just crying, literally maybe every week, going, "I'm so bored. And I don't understand why." Or like, I'm just not stimulated enough. I am so bored. So I signed up to the gym. I went to the gym like 5 times a week. I was just so I have inattentive and also like the hyperactivity part. So so clearly I was very like not stimulated. I just felt frustrated. And so I was only in my first job for 2 years, and then I was like, right, I need to do something else. I need a career break. So then I went and did my master's, and then I was like, right, I need to do work again. So then I went and got a different job. So obviously ADHD manifests in that, you kind of jumping from opportunities to get stimulated.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I remember thinking there's something wrong with me, people, because I am, looking for a career break every 2 years because I'm getting bored. And, my friends are out there kind of really stable in their jobs, buying homes. And I'm there going, I'm so bored. Like, I can't, I like, what's the point of life? So I realized something was up. And really, when the pandemic hit me and I was working from home and really struggling, like not being able to go out or anything like that, like mentally, I got really depressed. And that's when I was like, something is up and I need to figure it out. And actually, when I Googled dyslexia, I found out that dyslexia, you could also have ADHD, or the rates are quite high of
Yes.
comorbidities.
Yeah.
And when I read the ADHD stuff, that's when I realized that I actually have ADHD. Like I knew straight away, and that was an amazing, yeah.
It was exactly the same with me, Kim. It was that I kind of always knew there was something with regards to the dyslexia, and kind of had the visual dyslexia as well, where words move around and when I get stressed and tired. Those elements, and that was really difficult. But the ADHD, I mean, it's probably why I set up so many different companies, or I always wanted a promotion, always kind of, just wasn't kind of settled just being, I guess, and that in itself can be quite exhausting.
Yeah, for sure. It is so exhausting, especially as an immigrant, I don't know, child firstborn immigrant parents, telling them that I'm really struggling with work and I really don't want to, be in the corporate world anymore. I think like I'm really struggling here. It's really hard to admit to your parents who, always thought you're like the smartest kid on earth.
That must have been so hard, because I guess if you look at generations before, and there is a certain methodology that you need to kind of, don't need to adhere to, but the expectation is you kind of you go to education, you get then to college, university, you get a really good job, you stay in that job, you get a good salary, and so on and so on and so on. And I guess especially with your your background, your generation, it's changing the mold, in the sense of it's very rare now that someone would stay into the same job for 40 years, doing the same thing. So to break that mold, and start having those discussions, that as well, without even taking into the neurodiverse element, must have been very difficult for you, Kim.
Yeah, for 100%. I still have conflicts now because, I always say to my friends, I just wanted to be that good Asian kid. Like, be a doctor or be a lawyer, make my parents proud. I really tried, but now I've come to a point where my mental health was affected, and I realized I just need to make decisions that are good for me. And I need to think whether, a corporate job is for me, or whether I need something more flexible, or whether, so those are very important questions. And yeah, to be honest, if it was easy as that, I would be like, yeah, there's no issues, but I don't want to disappoint my parents. And it's always that, going back to that, you don't want to disappoint your parents. But
No,
I would,
I
yeah, I'm
completely.
trying to break the mold here.
No, and you're doing an incredible job, with this. I just want to share a couple of comments on here, Kim.
Yeah.
Love this, Kim. You're just brilliant.
Oh, hi,
Um,
Sam.
and I don't know who the LinkedIn user. I do apologize. It just says LinkedIn user. So feel free to comment again and put your name on there. So it says that this resonates with me so much, Kim.
Oh, that's so
Eric said very
sweet.
interesting story, Kim. And Sean Foster, wonderful to hear these stories for so many people that can grow and learn from dyslexic communities that have real heartfelt stories to share. Thank you so much. We've got Stuart saying great interview, and Graham saying love this, Kim. Just pushing it.
That's great.
So but even still, even that, I don't mean even that, but it's amazing when we're kind of sharing the stories and we're starting these conversations exactly like you did within your community that you built with Genius Potential. It's literally just having those conversations and then seeing where they can go and how you can kind of nurture them to help and support.
For sure, yeah. So Sam, who just commented, is one of the, one of one of my tribe members, I call it, our tribe. So she also is someone I met who's amazing, also ADHD, and I just realized that so many women out there, or at least so many neurodiverse people, want the same thing. We want to uplift all of us, and that is our tribe. And I've never felt so connected to a bunch of strangers at the start when I connected online, and now I feel so connected and shared stories. And I never felt that way, and I felt so empowered. I think when you feel that you're alone in your journey, that's when things could get really dark. But when you realize that actually everyone out there is carving their own path and trying to help each other, it becomes a lot more safer to share your story. A lot more, you feel a lot more confident in your decisions. I definitely feel a lot more confident in my decision to carve a different route for me and try something new. And that's exactly what I'm doing, trying to research how technology can be incorporated to make ADHD coaching more accessible.
Yes.
So yeah, I signed up to a bunch of business accelerators and was like, let's use, you heard ADHD is called like the what was it, the entrepreneur gene. So I was like, well, why not, let's just give this a go, and realize it's so exciting because in the cohort, I'm pretty sure half of them have ADHD. Like, I'm pretty sure, because everyone is so entrepreneurial and smart, and that's just the thing about ADHD brains. We pick things up really quickly, we connect the dots, and we're just sociable people. And yeah, it's great. Like, I love the route that I'm on now.
Because I think with the with regards to the ADHD, and again, I can speak from my own personal experience, and I guess like you said, the research that you do, but it does. I generally move very fast in all walks of life, and always thinking a couple of steps ahead.
Yeah,
I just want to kind of touch on because it's Mental Health Awareness Week currently while we're recording this live, and I know neurodiversity plays there's a big part within a lot of the marketing that we do to try and raise awareness around neurodiversity in mental health awareness. You've kind of touched on how mental health kind of affected you in that element. Are there kind of strategies, Kim, that you do? Do you kind of just for me, I kind of try and even though I need to still run a business and be social on social media, I tend to try and shut off at least for an hour, a couple of hours a day, go for a walk, try and connect back to nature. Is there anything that you do that helps you?
I will do, but just give me one moment because my laptop battery is going to die. Sorry, 1 second.
Carry on. I'll ad lib. So, guys, we're speaking to Kim today. She's an incredible lady doing phenomenal stuff. If you have any questions for Kim, or if any of this resonates with you, then please do drop in the comments, and please also as well do connect with Kim on the social media platforms as well. Kim, welcome back.
Sorry, that's an ADHD thing. I plugged it in thinking.
I did one of the shows before, and I was so nervous to not move, and my battery, I was seeing it go down. It's like 8%, 7%, and I was trying to concentrate. Not all that I was concentrating on. But I've done that. So please
Don't worry. So about your question. So I had one of the coaches told me about this, but I have a dopamine menu poster. So I just posted this today, but basically I have like a list of stuff that I would do when my energy is slumped or when I know my creativity levels are low. Like you just know it when it's low, and there's no point forcing yourself to sit on a screen. Just do something. So I do yoga 15 minutes. I eat an apple because I love apples, and apples have like that natural sugar that give you that, that really good feeling. Similarly, everyone talks about going on walks. I have kittens that I play with and stroke with for like 15 minutes because they give me such happy hormones, like happy dopamine, so it's so great. And that's exactly what everyone should do. Like everyone should have their go-to, activities that when they need that energy or when they need that creativity, they should definitely abide by it. Definitely.
Yeah.
Can't do the meditation thing though. Maybe it's an ADHD thing. I just can't.
I love meditation. I absolutely love it. But once I'm doing the meditation, I feel it's just exhilarating in the sense that it can kind of really help quiet my mind. But getting myself to do the meditation is sometimes is a real battle.
I
those
agree.
are incredible tips, Kim, and I'm sure they'll really kind of help people. Eating the apple is really kind of. Do you know what I love about the eating the apple element is, we struggle. We're always kind of living in the past. We're always living in the future, and we try. Very difficult to live in the now. And when you were talking about eating an apple, I could just imagine myself eating the apple, but that's all I'm concentrating on. The color, the shininess, the crunch, the noise, all these kind of things that you're doing, and it does help live in the moment. So
it's stuff like that, and I make it a ritual as well. Like I cut up the apple. Maybe it's an Asian thing. You cut up the apple, you like bite it one bit at a time. It's really good. So recommend.
Kim, I want to get on to, we touched on, the technology element of it. And I know I'm a massive, big fan of technology and also really interested in AI, so assistive. So it'd be amazing if you could share the work that you're doing around that and some knowledge that you've got. That'd be amazing.
So technology is great because I used Claro at work. Like I used all of the assistive technology. It's just fantastic. So when I was researching, especially in the ADHD community, because a lot of women now are getting diagnosed, and I think that's because of the pandemic and coping strategies have gone out the window. And more women just don't generally get diagnosed until later on because many reasons, which I won't go into. But especially also working mothers as well now having to work at home and look after kids, it just all comes out. So as I built my community organically, I was, reading all the WhatsApp messages of all the struggles like we had. And I was thinking, well, what are the solutions? And obviously taking ADHD medication is, a personal choice. I'm on medication, it's a personal choice. But the other side of it is ADHD coaching, which is considered a psychotherapy. But, a lot of women on my group who have it find it very beneficial. But I realized that it's really inaccessible in that it's very expensive. It's very, time heavy as well. And, the younger women in my group didn't have access to it or didn't even know it was an option or existed. And so I kind of looked into whether technology could be used to increase that access through AI, because we already have apps out there that use AI technology for, mental health. And so I was like, well, why can't we do that for ADHD? And so I'm still in the process of researching it, but it's definitely an area that I'm very interested in. And I think it has a lot of potential because with AI, you can, with ADHD, you can see patterns in, what people struggle with, what people need help with, and if you can automate that and actually make it a bot more intelligent, you can pump out, really helpful strategies, tips, advice, etc., based on, the data that it's being fed to learn. And I just don't think there's enough technology and data with neurodiversity, and there's just not enough data in general and understanding the conditions, etc.
I think it's, we spoke, before we came on onto the show, and we mentioned AI, and I completely agree that it almost feels like there's so much unknown, and where everyone's kind of just continuously asking questions, and even not everyone knows all the answers, and there's different things. So maybe, like you said, the AI side of it could be really, really helpful. And I think we touched on the fact of some people's responses to AI, and it is it's a phenomenal new technology that we've created. And I think I mentioned before about the technology and the fact that it's very unknown. So there are a couple of different camps in the sense of the AI side of it, where you think, well, actually it's going to control, take over all the jobs, going to take over the world, or it's humans. And then there's the other side where I say, well, actually the AI is really kind of helping and directing the assistance there. But I think it's definitely the way forward, surely.
I definitely buy into AI being more helpful than destructive. Obviously, anything without sort of regulation is destructive. But in the specific case of neurodiversity, where there isn't, there is innovation, and obviously Clara Reed and all the assisted technology is an example of that. But I think there needs to be more. Like, we need more data to understand neurodiversity, to have the data to back up, our strengths. Like, we know we have strengths, but we don't have data for that, for example, right? So we need to have that data so that we can understand the patterns and the solutions to it. So I definitely think AI is the future, especially for neurodiversity. So Cognosys is the ed tech platform that helps people understand, neurodiverse people understand their strengths, etc. That is a game changer. And I was reading up about the company, and I realized there's so much more that could be done with AI and technology. So watch the space. I definitely think we should be excited about it.
And I guess from knowing about kind of workplaces that you've kind of worked, been associated with, and especially the the workplaces that I've kind of work alongside with, there is so much unknown around neurodiversity. And I know we touched on the fact that once you get your kind of diagnosis, you then kind of going in educating other people. And do you think that's I think of the process, if someone was thinking, I have ADHD or dyslexia, and then you get the diagnosis, and then you go into that company, and then you announce that, and then the process, then you then have to educate them, the company around it. That's why I think you don't really know the answers yourself.
I have potential answers. I think
no, sorry. I meant when someone comes into get diagnosed and goes into an organization, and then they say, I've got dyslexia, and they go, okay, so what do you need? What help do you need?
Oh, right, yeah.
And you're like, well, I don't know the answers, but yeah,
definitely. No one really knows the answers, but I think there could be potential help. So I think a lot of the times, like, we don't know what we need, and the companies don't know what we need. A lot of the times it's companies that mostly don't know what we need, not because they don't know, they just don't know where to get that help. So I do think technology could come into play here to really help both sides kind of close the gap, whether that's education or whether that's like having, my vision is that so what I'm working on is to have like an ADHD coach in an app. So companies could use that in order to help their employees, so that they don't have to do all the hard legwork. Like, there's already technology out there to do the hard legwork. So
we've got, if you look at company structures anyway, there's systems put in place for everything. The whole ethos, you look at the ethos of a company anyway, they have to put systems in place. So having a system in place that can actually help and assist with the technology side of it, to for neurodiverse, for non-neurodiverse, for the whole kind of workforce, it's got to be the way forward.
I do think there's a difference between large organizations that can afford it and prioritize it versus smaller
Great.
organizations. So like at my university, we have an amazing disability career center and officer, and she was amazing. But when you go to work, you don't really have that point of contact anymore, or that point of person you go to get help, and that's really missing in large companies, because HR, I think they're meant to do everything, right? And I don't think neurodiversity is a topic of at least an important topic compared to race at this point in time, just because of like what's happening, in the US, etc., etc. But so I always felt like neurodiversity was left kind of second or maybe third on the list. But I do think that is the way forward of having, central, as someone you can go to for the technology help, for the knowledge, and and to as the go-to place for people to know how they can utilize their strengths in that organization. So definitely.
Absolutely, and I guess I remember reaching out to several companies at the start of this year and talking about dyslexia, and they said yes, don't you have a dyslexia awareness week in October? As if it was personal to me. Like I created
Oh my
this week,
gosh.
like I just randomly created this week, and but I can get, and I guess it was they're doing incredible things, but I guess they were trying to think, well, actually, it's Dyslexia Awareness Week / month, as they put it, in in October. So maybe we can do something there. And I guess that maybe organizations, larger organizations, some are trying to think, well, actually, January is this, February is this, March is this. And if you're only kind of touching base with dyslexia and neurodiversity in October, what's happened in November, December, January, and so on. It's and
Yeah.
a lot.
Sorry, I'm just laughing because it's so true.
But it is broken right down, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. I would say, yeah, I mean, I think the reason why it's broken down like that is because there's limited resources in companies, so they need to, prioritize certain months for certain things. But I agree, needs to be an ongoing thing. This is a great means it's a great opportunity for I guess neurodiverse influencers or advocates to kind of come into that role as either, consultants or, people that know how to advise companies to bring the best out of neurodiverse people, throughout the year, not just 1 month. So yeah.
And I think, especially with some of the companies I've worked with, once you start that conversation, it's exactly the same as what you've done, with Genius Potential is if you go in and you start that conversation, and then there's a support element, and people are starting to say, well, actually, yeah, I need this, or I can, can I get some advice on this? And then it's, oh, actually, it's November now, we're on to something else. Once you start that support and that conversation, it should be embedded to take that person along, along that journey.
Yeah, I mean, there's still a lot of work to be done at big firms, so big and small, to be honest. But I agree. I think neurodiverse people at work deserve the support. They need the support, and because I think when I read a statistics that ADHD people, I think, have the highest rate of, well, I think that like the unemployment rate is really high, and also in prison population, I think 40% have ADHD or undiagnosed ADHD. So there's a reason for that, and that's because workplaces aren't aware of neurodiversity and how to support us. So for society and for neurodiverse people, and for the economy, really, this really needs to be addressed. Yeah.
Absolutely, Kim. I just lastly, I want to kind of touch on the fact of your sheer strength and drive. And it would just be, if anyone's listening, what's been your kind of drive to do this? Because, like you said, a lot of the statistics against you, a lot of things, the struggle side of it, having dyslexia and ADHD, all these things are a struggle for most people.
Yeah.
What was your kind of your drive, and because it's inspirational, it really is, and it's going to inspire people, the younger generation, myself, the older generation. What was your kind of your drive to?
Yeah, so to be honest, alongside all those struggles was being Asian and not wanting to, disappoint my parents. But my drive has just been really, it's more like the wanting to thrive, because I struggled so much you know, spent so much time studying, working hard, and, you know, getting depressed and having bouts of depression, not understanding why. And now, finally, with the community I found and being able to speak up about my experiences, I now think that I actually can thrive.
Amazing.
So I would say it comes from the willingness to just see a different picture for myself. And I think everybody should definitely, despite all the struggles, there's it's amazing to be different. I actually wouldn't choose to be neurotypical. So yeah.
Truly inspiring. It really is, and I guess it's also just, you know, always being mindful, you know, like you do anyway, checking in on yourself and having you know, those conversations with yourself, because I guess when you become an influencer, or, you know, an advocate, so to speak, of what you're doing, I guess a lot of people kind of turn to you for support and, you know, for answers in those elements as well. So it's incredible that you can do the kind of the self-care and as well as, you know, helping out as well. But I know that can be quite draining is sometimes, but incredibly rewarding. But
I agree.
I know, you know, I've only got kind of a snapshot of how hard you're working within
But I enjoy it. I think like using my time to actually help other people has been the most rewarding thing, than rather than using my time and sitting alone and dwelling on like all these problems, quote problems I have, right? Like, so yeah, absolutely. Thank you for having me on. I'm, you know,
Yep.
everyone who's listening and can relate, really, you know, I just really wish you all the best. Yeah.
It's been absolutely incredible having you on here. How if people want to connect with yourself, how can they get in touch with you?
Yeah, definitely. So Genius Potential on Instagram. That's like my go-to place, and also on LinkedIn. So just Kim Toe on LinkedIn, you'll find me for sure. And happy to take any messages, questions, whatever. Like, I love connecting with new people.
So that's amazing. So if you do have any other further questions, then please drop them in the comments. This is streamed onto I think Facebook and LinkedIn. We'll also be putting this out as a podcast and onto YouTube as well. But Kim, it's been absolute
Oh,
pleasure
thank
speaking to
you.
yourself.
Thanks for
And
doing this.
honestly, it's an absolute joy when I get to speak to, you know, to people and get people to share their story. Thank you so
Oh,
much,
great.
and
Thanks.
I will see you soon. Take care, Kim. Cheers. Bye bye.
Thanks. Bye.
So guys, that was Kim. Thank you so much indeed for joining us on another neurodiversity story. She is doing incredible work. So please do connect with her on LinkedIn. Also, please, if you can find her on Instagram as well, Genius Potential, then please do. It's been another incredible neurodiversity stories, and we'll be back next week with another neurodiversity stories. I'll put my teeth back in next Friday at 11 o'clock, where we have another incredible guest. Have an incredible weekend, guys, and thank you so much indeed for your time. Take care. Cheers. Bye-bye.